Most people do not know that you do not have to actually give your therapist a play by play on your trauma to actually walk through your trauma. And also, it's possible to actually heal from trauma without your therapist actually knowing about what happened and the events in detail.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Brewer, welcoming you to this edition of M.E.S.H. And we're going to have an exciting conversation today with someone who's going to talk to you about a form of psychotherapy that my guess is many of you are not aware of. I would like to say welcome to Ibinye. Ibinye, I'm going to let you do your whole name because I don't want to crucify it. Tell us your
Thank
name.
you. Thank you, Dr. Brewer. My name is Ibinye Osibodu-Onyali, and thank you for the invite. I'm very excited about our conversation.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here. And I looked at your background, and you kind of do a whole lot of stuff. You are a licensed you are a licensed marriage and family therapist. You work in a lot of areas, including premarital and marital Christian counseling, if folks want that. Trauma, generational trauma. You do a lot with a lot of different people, with a lot of different areas who are dealing with a lot of different kinds of things. And the approach that you use, one of the approaches that you use is called brain spotting. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to tell us more about brain spotting. But before that, I'd like for you to give us a thumbnail sketch of some of the kinds of work that you do. You talk about working with generational trauma. What exactly is that?
So it's the idea that we pass down the negative experiences that we have had, the things that we have experienced that have been bad, that have affected us in negative ways, and it shapes the way we raise our children. It shapes the way we think about the world, and we know how you think about the world will affect the way you speak, the way you behave. And say, for example, you have a lot of fear going on. You're going to raise your children in a fear-based environment, and then they continue to pass that down to their children. And people that come to me are like, I just want to stop this. I want this to stop with me.
Is there a difference between generational trauma as a concept and trauma as a separate concept, or is it the same thing? Is it an extension?
There's a little bit of a nuanced difference, right? So some people who have experienced, whether it's complex trauma or just one incident of trauma, they're aware about what's going on, and they seek treatment, it ends, and then they're done with it. Some people have experienced multiple traumas. They have no idea that they've even experienced any kind of traumas. It just looks like life. And then they go and pass it on to their friends, to their children, and their children pass it on. And it just becomes our culture. This is the way we do things.
It's so interesting that so many of us can live a life that is actually perhaps harmful to us and our loved ones, and we have no idea because it's just the life we've always lived. You also work with highly sensitive people. What does that mean? That sounds
So
like a woman problem, right? Oh, you're so sensitive.
she's just emotional.
Yeah.
So a highly sensitive person, it's actually a trait. So it's not a disorder, it's not a diagnosis. It's a trait that you're either born with or you're not, right? And it's actually passed down through the gene pool. And it can happen if you're male, if you're female, it doesn't really matter. And it's the idea that you think and you feel extremely deeply. You're constantly hyper processing. It might even be through your five senses. So you smell things that other people aren't picking up. You can hear things nobody's really hearing. They feel like they can actually experience the feelings of others, and so you're carrying your own emotions along with the emotions of others. And it often comes with a deep sense of perfectionism and guilt and hyper independence, because you go around just feeling like I need to go around solving everybody's issues. And people find that you're so empathetic and kind, they come to you for all the things, you're the resource, and you end up in burnout at the end of the day.
I was going to say it sounds pretty exhausting. And you also used a word that I want you to say a little bit more about, and that is perfectionism. How does one learn to be a perfectionist? And what do you say to people who think that's a really good aspiration?
Ooh, perfectionism is really heavy. So one of the ways that we can become perfectionists is like firstborn daughters. I work with a lot of firstborn daughters, right? A lot of times, mom and dad are busy, grandma's busy, and so you get to take care of the younger siblings, right? And you know that when your parents or grandparents or whoever is raising you comes back from work or whatever, they're going to be asking you questions about your siblings. Why did your siblings not do this? Why didn't your siblings not do
Right.
that? And so to please your parents or your teachers or the adults in your life, you learn to run a very tight ship. And then when you're doing everything right, you get praised. Oh my gosh, you're such an amazing daughter. And look at how great your sister's dressed and you're getting all A's in school. We get praised for these things. And so we enjoy it. We enjoy the validation that comes from perfectionism. In the case of highly sensitive people, people just generally come to you for advice and for help. Highly sensitive people are typically very conscientious, which is not the same as perfectionism, but with all the validation that comes with being conscientious, you're getting a raise, or your partner is very excited because you keep the house really clean or whatever. You start to hold yourself to this impossible standard because people start to say, how do you do it all? Oh my gosh, you must be superwoman. And it just spirals into perfectionism.
And perfectionism and people pleasing, is that part of the same path, if you will? Is it the
I
same
will
thing?
say, yes, I would say
Okay.
they're two sides of the same coin, because the more perfectionistic you are, people start to expect a lot out of you, and then you don't want to let them down. And before you know it, you've become a people pleaser. You don't want to let anybody down.
I want to go back to what you were saying about a highly sensitive person. And you said that it really is sort of part of your gene pool. I mean, you're just born with it. You either experience or you don't. And you
Mhm.
said men and women. But although things have gotten a little bit less intense in this society, men aren't supposed to have a whole bunch of deep feelings. So, I mean, if you're a man and you have a sense of yourself as being deeply sensitive, are you even going to go to therapy, or do you start to feel ashamed?
Yes. So in most cultures, high sensitivity is frowned upon. It's deeply frowned upon in men and in women, and especially in men. So I find that in men, high sensitivity shows up as anger or hypermasculinity. Look at me, I'm big, I'm strong, I can yell, I can fight, I can scream, I'm tough, right? So you're covering up the tears, you're covering up the compassion, you're covering up the empathy, because you've been told all of your life, suck it up, you're a man, don't do that. So highly sensitive men actually get really, really great at just pretending that they are somebody different, and it's very difficult.
So, how is that man going to know that maybe it's time to go to therapy,
Mhm.
and maybe that's an empowering thing, not a sign of weakness?
So a lot of men find out that they're highly sensitive from maybe listening to a podcast or talking to a friend, just through a third party. And they start to realize that it's not necessarily a bad thing. High sensitivity actually makes men really good fathers because they're empathetic, they're compassionate, they're kind. We're not going to say that high sensitivity equals weakness, which is what most cultures say. It's weak.
Mhm.
Why are you crying? Why are you sad? Why do you even care about these issues? But when they realize that high sensitivity is actually the thing that pushes a lot of people into big causes like social justice, you
Wow.
see negative things happening in your community and you feel so saddened that you actually feel like you have to do something about it. So when they learn that this deep feeling can actually move them into action, then they learn that, oh, actually, this is not a bad thing. And I tell people, you don't have to label yourself as highly sensitive if you find it insulting. You can call it anything or call it nothing at all. It's fine.
Right. But what's important is to recognize who you are and to know that who you are is really just sort of fine.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes people will say to me, can you just take this away? Like, can we work together and just like push it out of my gene pool? And I'm like, I cannot do that. I cannot promise that at all. But I can show you how to manage it and how to create a life that doesn't feel painful. When you're highly sensitive, the world feels so painful. Turn on the news, it's injustice everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so it's about, all right, don't take in as much news, don't watch violent movies, be careful what kind of friends that you hang out with, be able to speak up and set boundaries, and you don't have to be the helper for every single person that comes your way.
That's such an important lesson. Ibinye, we're going to take a break just for a second, and I just want to let folks know that, yes, you are about to learn about a form of psychotherapy that many of you really may not have heard a lot about. So I will be excited to go back to our guest in a second, but I just want to take this moment to ask you to join me on the M.E.S.H with Dr. Pamela Brewer YouTube channel. I ask that you subscribe and share as often as you like. All of the conversations that I have are on the YouTube channel, and they're all having to do with your mental, emotional, and social health. And speaking of mental, emotional, and social health, let's go back to our guest today. Ibinye, the different kinds of experiences that you've described that people have, for many of them, you have to tell me if it's true for all of them. Brain spotting is a process that you use to help your clients. So first question is, what on earth is brain spotting? What are you doing to my brain? Okay.
All right. So I'm going to explain this as simply as possible. So when traumatic events or even non-traumatic experiences happen, the brain is logging everything. Think of it as there are like file folders for everything. When very difficult things happen, trauma, things that cause anxiety, things that cause you pain, there's a specific area of the brain where it's just lodged. Sometimes they're not even filed neatly, it's just kind of filed, right? And people start to feel, anxious or tearful, avoidant, fearful. You just know something is off. But you don't want to talk about it because it makes you very uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about accident happen. I know I'm afraid to drive now, but I don't want to talk about it because it's icky. So what we do is brain spotting. The idea behind it is where you look affects how you feel because your eyes are actually embedded in your brain. So I can access your brain through your eyes through a point that you look called a brain spot. So as you bring up this memory or this event that happened, we can access that specific part in your brain just by looking at a spot. And then your body is able to process it, kind of go through all the pages, digest it, break it up into little bits, and now it can file it properly and the filing cabinet closes. So no more nightmares, no more avoidance, no more fear. And you don't have to give me a play-by-play of what happened to you. So it's gentle.
So let me see if I understand. I've got something going on I've had a trauma.
Mhm.
I was in a car accident and I'm feeling completely traumatized. And I can't eat, I can't sleep, all kinds of aspects of my daily living are impacted. I come to you, you pull out the word brain spotting. I think you're nuts
Of course.
because my brain is mine and no, you can't spot it.
Yes.
And then what you're saying is that based on where my eyes literally are physically moving as we are having our conversation is going to give you access to that part of my brain that holds that piece of the trauma. Is that correct?
That is actually correct. And everybody thinks I'm nuts. Even other therapists, they're like, what on earth are you saying? And to comfort everyone, I say, yes, I could have access to your brain, but I have no control over your brain whatsoever. You can start whenever you want, you can stop whenever you want. I have literally no control over you in session. And then people are like, okay, fine, I'll try it. And then they try it and they're like, oh, I feel a lot more calm. Now, this is not like a magic wand. I'm not saying we cure trauma in one day. Nothing like that. It's a process, right? But it's a lot gentler than when I was doing CBT. I would say it's just gentle on the brain and it helps to rewire and heal your brain. So it's
And
great.
what is CBT?
It's cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the idea that your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are all connected. You change one, you change the others.
So the approach with CBT is helping someone learn how to think differently.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
sounds like you're saying with brain spotting, it's helping someone to learn how to feel differently. Is that what you're saying?
So you have access to your feelings, right? And as you brain spot, as you sit across from me on the screen, your brain actually will pull other traumatic events or other difficult events that have happened to you that have just been just kind of filed somewhere. And you might not even realize that that thing that happened to you when you were 5 or the comment that your boss made last week even affected you. And so it's just pulling all the areas that have been misfiled. And it's not just for trauma. Artists will come when they have like writer's block or when they're trying to work on a piece. People that do sports, athletes, let's say you're trying to work on a specific move, and they're like, I just can't hit it. I don't know why I can't get this 3-point shot. And we'll just do that. So when you're feeling just kind of stuck in an area of your life, brain spotting can help you feel unstuck with that. It helps with fear and anxiety.
Is it useful for children as well as adults?
Absolutely. Children are actually the best brain spotters because children, they don't do so much thinking, which overrides the feeling brain. Children are
Right.
just like, this is fun. I'll just do whatever.
Yeah, okay. And I think I heard you say online. Is this something that you do online?
I do it. I'm fully virtual. Absolutely. So from the comfort of your home, which I really like because you're feeling safe, you're in your own safe space. You're not in my scary office. So that actually gives my clients an edge.
So, as we wrap up our conversation today, tell me where you're licensed and tell me how people can be in touch. And I know you've got lots of information on your website, so I'm gonna want that information too.
All right.
Where are you licensed? Where can you practice?
So I'm licensed in Texas and in California. So I see clients throughout Texas and California. You can
Okay.
find me on my website. It's theziniapractice.com. No, my name is not Zinnia. And then you can find me at the Zinnia Practice everywhere on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
And if you would spell, for those who are listening on a podcast and they're not seeing you, spell your website address.
All right. So it's the, which is THE, and Zinnia, ZINNIA, practice.com. So the Zinnia, ZINNIA, practice.com.
Terrific. I really wanna thank you for joining me today and for talking to us about something that I think, again, I think a lot of people don't know about. I'm glad to know that my brain will remain intact. I think I'm glad about that. I'm not sure, I have to give that one some thought, but at least there's a place to go to get some relief, and it sounds like relatively quickly. Is there an average length of time that your clients work with you?
I would say most of my clients work with me 6 months to a year. Again, depending on how complex the trauma is, depending on if new traumas happen, depending on how open they are. But I'll say about a year.
Okay, sounds good. And again, for people to get more information about you and the work you do, your website address is?
The Zinnia, Zinnia is ZINNIA, thezinniapractice.com.
Terrific. Thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer.
And folks, thank you for joining us today on this edition of M.E.S.H. Remember to subscribe to the M.E.S.H. with Dr. Pamela Brewer YouTube channel. You can get this conversation and all the conversations that I've had. You can listen to them. You can share them with folks you care about. I'll be here next week, and I hope you are too. Take care.